Welcome, everybody, to the February 19th, 2025 regular meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board of Directors. It's 8:05. Please join me in silencing or turning off your cell phones. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Director Amati will be absent today. Director Gagliotti?
Here.
Director Pick?
Here.
Director Leffel has not joined us yet. Chair Miller?
Here. Director Amati has an excused absence, and we're sure that Director Leffel will be joining us shortly. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Gagliani, can you help us with that?
In pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Communications and announcements. Anything from staff? Okay, very good. For the record, Director Leffel joined us at 8:06. What about members of the board? Any announcements or nothing?
None for me.
Okay. Public comment. Any person may address the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board at this time for any item that is not on today's agenda. An effort should be made that you only speak to things that we actually have some jurisdiction and control over. So if you step to the podium and just tell us your name and where you're from, we'll be happy to hear from you.
Okay, my name is Helen Birdsong, and I live in the Oaks condominiums. And I'm asking why we have a meeting so early in the morning on a weekday. If we change the meeting, if the meeting time could be changed to a more convenient time for people to attend at work, maybe to an evening or a weekend, I think you get a much higher participation from your neighbours. And I'm sure you want to be friends with your neighbours. And the other thing I want to state is, I bought my property in '99. I've not lived there. I've only lived there the last few years. I lived there briefly in '99. The air traffic is way heavier. I don't work, so I'm home, so I can hear it. Way more aeroplanes than there was in '99. I realise it's 25 years later, so air traffic will be heavier. But it seems later and earlier. I don't know whether we can address that. I know you can't now, but and it's certainly a concern for people, my neighbours, who can't be here because they work and start work at 8 in the week. So it could be taken under consideration to move the monthly meeting to a more friendly or convenient time for people to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the board at this time?
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Edwards, and I am a new resident on Monterey Ave in Pacific Grove for about 7 days now, maybe 8. So brand new to the area, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I am the new executive director for the Big Sur Marathon Foundation. So Dino Pick invited me today just to say hello. I know that we partner on a lot of different levels, sponsor for the race, but also obvious community partner. We have a lot of international travelers, a lot of domestic travelers, so I'm sure they're spending a lot of time in and out of the airport. So I just kind of wanted to put myself out there. I don't have cards yet, but if you want to reach out, my email is jennifer@bsim.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much and welcome. Best of luck with your new position. Any other member of the public wishing to talk? Any member in virtual attendance? If you want to speak, please raise your hand remotely.
You have to have a remote hand.
Yeah, well, however you activate it. You're standing in your living room now, raising your hand. I cannot see you. Okay. I guess we have none. Thank you. Consent agenda. Consent agenda or routine items that comes with a recommendation from staff to approve. Is there any member of the board that wish to pull an item from consent? Don't see any member of the public or staff wishing to pull an item from consent. This includes if you're in virtual. I see none. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and second. Can we have a roll call, please, Denise?
Director Gagliardi?
Yes.
Director Pick?
Yes.
Director Leffel?
Yes.
Chair Miller?
Yes. Thank you. Regular agenda item. We only have one. Item G1, Resolution 1895, authorizing a professional service agreement between Hansel Phelps Construction Company and the construction manager as constructor for the replacement terminal facility construction. Well, that's a mouthful. Okay, who's going to talk to us about it? No, I'm sorry, we have two items under regular agenda.
Directors. We also have Tracy Davis on with Kathleen Kirsch. She is helping us with our contract for this component as well. Thank you for letting us present on this. So you have a large packet from the procurement process, which is very regulated between Code of Federal Regulations and FAA advisory circulars, et cetera. They provide us with a really good roadmap on how to do procurement when it is not design, bid, build. So this is a best value contract. And we are required to do a two-step process. So the first step was we did a request for qualifications, and we provided you that information in the packet so you can see what was requested from anyone that wanted to potentially respond to our qualifications component. We provided the opportunity for, it was widely publicly advertised. Besides using electronic means, we also have a hiring list of people that have been interested in our project. So we send that out as well to all of them via email. We provided the opportunity for a non-mandatory tour of the airport to see where the facility was going to go and what construction was going on today. We had a number of contractors or respondents attend that pre-bid. 7 firms were in attendance for that. And on the receiving date for the state, we also offered the opportunity for questions and had a date certain that they had to provide those questions to us. And we responded to everyone with the questions that were asked by any of them. We don't tell who asked the questions, we just number them all. And then we provide a response as an addendum to the RFP. So those were all provided to all of the respondents that had pulled the package, the bid package, which was being held by ARC, who we use for that because of the size of the documents. So we were providing them not only the information you have in front of you, but a number of other ancillary documents, including the 100% design documents that HOK has done and the bid specs. So thousands of pages that were in those documents that they got to review and see, so that they knew what the project looked like. After going through that process, we had 4 respondents submit their statement of qualifications. And as provided in the RFQ, we provided them with what information the panel would be reviewing those on and how many points each were scored on. So the panel did their review and scored those 4. And we had noticed that we would be asking three to come back for the second phase, at least three to come back for the second phase, which is the request for proposals, which is another document that also looks at and gives us some cost estimates at that time, a very high level cost estimate. But they also were going to provide us with a cost estimate to do the pre-construction phase, which is getting us GMPs, guaranteed maximum prices, going out to the market, starting to solicit for the construction cost of the terminal. We asked all four of those if they wanted to. We gave them that opportunity to continue if they should so choose, because we know there is a cost associated with doing this process. All four of them agreed that they wanted to continue and submit the request for proposals. And at the same time, we provided them with an option for their interview date. So we wanted to lock that in early so that everyone was available. So the second phase started in January, and we also gave them at that opportunity to I need to back up 1 second too, in the request for qualifications. We also had provided them the request for proposal information as well early on. So they had it immediately when they saw the request for qualifications. We added a few caveats to it, just a few clarification information to the request for proposals and sent that out to them. They also had one more opportunity to ask questions, which some of them did, and we responded to all of them with the clarification questions for the proposals. And those were received in January, on January 23rd, and interviews were conducted on January 28th and 29th. The 4 respondents were provided the opportunity for a formal presentation, and then they responded to questions from the evaluation plan. And I think what's noteworthy or to think of is you can't give all the information that you want. You have to be very broad. And then all of the respondents have to then interpret what you're saying for themselves and provide you with information that they believe is best what we're looking for. And one of the things that we were very specific about was only providing for the opportunity for 4 people to come for our interview. And that was specific because we feel the team feels there are 4 very specific roles that will be important during construction. And so we didn't really want the marketing teams to come. We really wanted the field teams, but we didn't tell them that. We just told them they had the opportunity for 4 people to come. And so each chose to bring whomever they chose to bring. But we were very specific. We didn't want a lot of people. We really wanted to get into the meat of construction and what they knew about building a terminal building specifically. So each 4, brought their teams. That was part of the evaluation. Again, we had the scoring criteria in that document. They were reviewed, and price was a piece of it, but it wasn't all. It was a weighted piece. And again, because they all came at it from a different interpretation of what we were looking for. Some of them put, for example, maybe their cost of a construction office in the CMAQ fee. Some might put it in their management fees. So each were going to do it a little bit differently. So those fees were weighted as a percent, but not the total of it. It was going to be best value. And so this information was then defined in the procurement, and after a lot of deliberation with the team, because we really went back and forth, and we really had 4 really solid construction teams. So, and really reviewing in a lot of detail both documents that were provided, their statement of qualifications and their request for proposals. Hensel Phelps was the team's highest scored ranked contractor to move forward, primarily based on their experience and their interview for sure. They brought the people in the field that would be working in the field on the project. And we asked a lot of really detailed questions, and they were able to answer every one of those questions extremely well. Some of the other teams brought more of their marketing teams, and we didn't get the same response, and we didn't get a feel for how they would deal with the construction issues in the field for the terminal building, and especially the transition into that building. How is it going to work? How are we going to know it's going to work on day one when we put passengers in there? That was a large portion of our questions to these contractors was tell us how you put it through its paces. Tell us how it's going to, we know and we'll have confidence that when we open it up, because when we open it up, this building is no longer going to be serving passengers because our security systems have all been moved over. So day one has to be right. And that was really a lot of our questions in the interview process is how does that work? How do you make day one right? And they really shine in that respect of really understanding how to commission a new terminal building for passengers from day one. So with that, also here in the audience is Todd Temple with Hensel Phelps. He will introduce himself so you can just get a chance for him to say hello. But staff we're happy to answer any questions, but would request that you consider this contract with Hensel Phelps to start the pre-construction phase so they can go out to bid to get cost for us because they will be bidding the trades for the contract for all of the components. So they need to get started soon so that we can then get our grant dollars that have been earmarked for us, especially from the airport, from the Bill ATP program and from the discretionary funding that's out there. We are anticipating our first GMP by April 3rd. So it is going to, a quick turnaround, but they have enough time to actually bid the trades for those first components that we want. So our recommendation is to approve resolution 1895. Happy to delve into anything and answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you. I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Todd,
Todd, would you stand to the podium and introduce yourself and say anything you want?
Thank you. So Todd Temple with Hensel Phelps. Super excited about this opportunity. We do a lot of aviation work across the country, and we're super excited to bring that experience here to help Monterey Airport deliver a new fantastic facility. We have people that are in the Bay Area that will be relocating to Monterey to work on the project. As Chris said, people on the ground is super important to ensure a successful delivery. And our folks are prepared to do that. We'll also have support personnel like myself that work out of Pleasanton in our regional office. And we'll also have resources that come in at specific times of the project to ensure operational readiness, as an example, is delivered successfully. So yeah, we're super excited to partner on this exciting project.
Thank you very much. Okay, let me open it up. Anything else, Chris?
that's all I have. Yeah,
Okay.
happy to answer questions.
You'll have some, I'm guarantee. Let's open it up to public comment. Any member of the public, first here in the boardroom, that if you wish to talk, please stand, please come to the podium. Hearing none, what about in our guests that are joining us virtually? Any member wishing to talk, please electronically raise your hand. Okay.
I see no hands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's swing it back to the board. We'll start over here with Director Leffel. Any questions?
I have a question of our legal counsel. We received a letter yesterday by email from a gentleman, which I think I forwarded to you and to Mr. Lapierre. And can you just address that, or one of you address the issue that was brought up?
Sure, happy to do it. What the issue is, the individual made some argument that the scoring improperly biased the outcome. In a nutshell. And all I can say is the effect of that, first off, we've analyzed it. We don't necessarily agree with that. We don't think that's the case. Number one. Number two, you are welcome to consider any of that information, and you don't have to make a determination based on it. Like whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, all comments that you receive, you take them in as informational, and then you make your best decision that you decide to make as a board.
I would point out that the calculations that were done as part of that commentary were incorrect. They included both phases of the process, and that's not how the scoring metric was to work. So the information was not factual, it was incorrect. We don't have any idea who this person was. They identified themselves as a concerned citizen, but we can't find record of that citizen in this community. You know, it's, as Scott said, you can certainly take that into account, but I can tell you and assure you, I sat through all of the process except for the final scoring. And everything was completely above board, and it's amazing how many contractors actually said that to the team. So I don't think that one comment that you receive really has any bearing on our recommendation for you. But you're certainly welcome to consider it as you consider moving the resolution forward.
Thank you. I just wanted to put it on the record that we did receive an email late yesterday afternoon or early evening, and that I would just think it needed to be addressed. So thank you. We had quite a long discussion about this in our Finance and Budget Committee, where it's seen first. And the Budget and Finance Committee, after quite a bit of time, and I think some misunderstanding on our part on some issues that were made clear by staff of how things worked, and almost where things had been explained but then misunderstood. So the staff made them clear to us. So we came forward with a unanimous recommendation to the board to go forward with the recommendation of the staff on this. And for both myself and Director Amati, I believe that we both felt very comfortable with this when we came out of the Finance Committee meeting to give a full recommendation to move it forward. So for me, that was important. I did have a question. Am I allowed to address Mr. Temple? during this?
Sure. Yeah.
Mr. Legal Miller.
Through the chair.
I know that in our area, and because we do require under our guidelines that we use union labor and we have prevailing wage and all of that, I know that sometimes on larger projects here, because we're kind of at the end of the pipeline, you know, half of our territory is sea otters, not people. So is it, are you feel comfortable that you'll be able to fulfill all of the requirements with prevailing wage and union labor and what we need in order to satisfy the community and the government?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we currently have work going on in Cal Poly, which is kind of a little more remote, and we don't have any issue getting qualified craft to fulfill those obligations. And we're also a signatory contractor for 3 trades. So we're very comfortable working with the unions and having that representation.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. So those were my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Gaglione.
Yeah, I just have a clarifying kind of question just of the process, the CMAR, the concept of a CMAR in the private sector. Is this a general contractor? Is this our general? Is that generally the?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, they will be the constructor. They will do some of the self-perform work, but they will also oversee all of the construction and bring in all the trades.
Got it. Okay, and then maybe I can just, I'll just go through. And does signatory mean that PLAs are in place? Is that what signatory means?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah, if I may. through the
Yeah.
chair.
Go ahead.
It means we've signed agreements with those particular trade unions.
Yeah,
There isn't PLA, but there is prevailing wage, and there is
it's an equivalent.
apprentice requirements.
Okay.
So basically it ends up with all.
Got it. Okay, all right. And then the scope of this is just civil and landscape. When the scope increases, will there be another bidding process, or are we selecting the CMAR that goes forward with all subsequent
For the full
scope
building,
items.
yeah, so we are selecting the contractor that will procure all of the components for the building.
Got it.
From the ground up,
Yeah.
including passenger boarding bridges, including the baggage handling systems, all of the HVAC systems, everything. So this is the last contractor that will be procured to do the full terminal complex build out.
Okay. And I'm sorry, and they also do the procurement, correct?
That is
You
correct.
go the sourcing and procurement. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, these were just kind of clarifying. This is the first time I've been through such a big project through the public sector. So yeah, I'm excited by this, and I'm really thank you so much for letting me know that your committee signed off on it. That gives me a lot of comfort. So
And Director, just so you're aware, once the GMP is in place, that comes back to you as an amendment to this contract. So
Say that- I
what
don't
you're
understand.
doing, what you're doing right now is the pre-construction.
right.
That allows Hensel Phelps and staff to develop the GMP.
Mm-hmm.
Once the GMP is available, then that comes back to you to amend this contract so that then you authorize the construction.
Now I understand. Okay. Yeah, because the 900,000 is just for the first.
Right.
Got it.
Just for the
Pre-construction.
Right. Just the pre-construction. Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Director Pick.
Thank you, Chair. Really appreciate the Finance Committee's hard look at it and unanimous recommendation. My questions have been asked and answered. I really appreciate the briefing. It's thorough. It's a great process we went through and appears to be an eminently qualified firm. So really excited about the way ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple quick questions. So have we ever done this process before? Refresh my memory. I know we've done,
We've done alternate delivery, yes. So the ARF building was a design build,
Yeah.
different process, similar. It's an alternate delivery method. You have approved the contract with Auto Construction for the landside components of the terminal complex, which are all the roads and the parking under a CMAR, construction manager at risk. Again, similar, but not exactly the same, but all alternate delivery methods. So this one is equal to those other ones that the other two that we've done before.
so we got a letter, delivered by email. Will we be responding to that?
We typically do not respond to those. Those are comments to the board. We did not receive that until it was forwarded to us by two directors. So we don't intend on responding. And typically you would not respond. This is a public comment, just as it would be in the room here today.
Okay, thank you. And one quick question for you. Not holding you to any amounts or anything, but
Oh, go for it.
or times. But how long do you think it will take to construct this terminal? What is your guesstimate? Just spitballing it here.
Yeah, so the RFP has a substantial completion date of, I believe it's May 1st of 27. And we're confident in meeting that date. We're ready to get going here as soon as the airport's ready to authorize us to start procuring the first bids. But yeah, I think that's getting definitely doable.
And the monies that we've set aside and earmarked, do you think will be sufficient?
Yeah, our estimators looked at benchmarking other similar project sizes to this location, and it was in the ballpark. We did have an opportunity to review the initial estimate. There's some questions about, is money in this location, or is this location, or is money missing, or is this the right budgetary number? But that's the stuff that we would dive into during the pre-construction phase and really vet out with the airport, the estimator, and the design team. But we're committed to working with the airport to get them a facility for the budget that we have. We understand that's the funding that's available. And that's part of the benefit of bringing on a CM at risk or CMAC is we can go through all that process during the pre-construction phase before the work really gets going. And that way we can ensure we can manage it to the mission.
When in the title at risk, you're at risk to deliver on time and on budget. And refresh our memories, what happens if things are not on time or would not on budget.
So the way the RFQ explained the process is we would have two guaranteed maximum price submissions. One would be April 3rd and the other would be November 18th. The first submission would be for portions of the scope, like to get the project out of the ground. And a schedule that goes along with that. So when we're agreeing to the GMP, we're agreeing to deliver that scope that's defined in the GMP for the budget of the GMP as a maximum price. If we go over that, that is our responsibility to cover that. If it goes under, the airport gets that money back and can use it for the next year.
Okay. Well, very good. Thank you. We look forward to this project starting. I have a lot of confidence in your company's ability to deliver and look forward to working with you as we move forward into this generational change to this airport.
Thank you. We're excited as well.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank the Finance Committee for doing a deep dive on this and for all the work that staff did putting this forward. So thank you guys very much. Okay,
Chair, can I
I
move?
will entertain a motion then.
Chair, I'll move that we adopt resolution number 1895, a resolution authorizing a professional service agreement with Hensel Phelps Construction Company as construction manager as constructor for the replacement terminal facility construction.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Leffel,
Yes,
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
get to work.
Yes.
Exactly. Easy day.
Okay. Presentation on airport safety standards and code of federal regulations for part 139. Mr. Lapierre, who's going to be helping us with this?
This will be Whitney Robert. We thought that this was a good primer, given that there has been indication in the community or concern in the community expressed that we are an unsafe airport. So, and part 139 addresses that. So we thought it would be good for you to get a little primer on what 139 is and how we perform in those inspections, which are done annually by the FAA. So Whitney, you want to go?
Can I even kind of, if I may, through the chair?
Yes.
Whitney, could you describe, or so the parts, describe like how this is the code, the CFR part? Could you just like do 2 minutes and say, why is there this thing called part 139? And
So it's all in here. So-
perfect. Oh, sorry. Excellent. Thank you.
Don't get ahead of class.
Yeah. No, I mean, it gets lost in the language.
Mm.
So, yeah, it does.
Oh, I got it now. Sorry. There we go. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike, for that primer. I just want to begin by giving some orders of magnitude here. So directors, you may be aware that there are just under 20,000 airports in the United States. Of that 20,000, 14,000 are private use airports, private air parks, people's homes, etc. 5,000 of that 20,000 are public use airports. Only 10% of those public use airports are certified as 139 airports, and we're one of them. So it's approximately 520 of those 5,000 public use airports have to meet these 139 standards. So what does it mean for an airport to have to meet 139? It means that we have stricter regulations, we have higher standards, and there are steeper consequences for non-compliance. So today, this presentation is going to focus on what's required to obtain 139 status, and more importantly, how we as an airport keep that status. And at the root of it all is safety. So we're going to begin here with a little bit of a history lesson. And I want to talk to you about where this framework comes from. The FAA, as we know it, was established in 1958. There was government regulation on aviation prior to that, but the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, was established in 1958 to oversee all aspects of civil aviation and to ensure the safety and efficiency of the entirety of the national airspace system. With that, 12 years later, we received the Airport and Airway Development Act. There are three important things that came out of this act. Most importantly for us is the Airport Operating Certificate, and I'll get to that in a second. But from the Airport and Airway Development Act, we get the Airport Development and Aid Program. So that's grant funds to make sure that the system works properly and remains safe. And then we also get planning and grant programs so that we can plan for the development of our ever-evolving aviation system. Finally, and most important to this presentation, is the requirement for an airport operating certificate. So this is the first time that the FAA is establishing operating standards for airports. So that's what the operating certificate does. So let's talk about what Part 139 is. And I think, Director Gagliardi, this may get to what you were trying to get me to say.
Thank you.
So Part 139 governs the certification and operation of airports serving scheduled air carrier operations. There are some caveats here, but I want you guys to focus on the scheduled air carrier operations. We have scheduled service, you know, the operators that operate here. And our scheduled service has aircraft that operate more than 31 seats. The other reason why I mention that is because there are also requirements for airports who have scheduled and unscheduled service with aircraft that are much smaller. So it's not to say like, oh, my airport only receives small aircraft. They are still held to these standards. And when we think about those small transport aircraft, we're thinking maybe caravans, maybe that are used to connect remote areas of Alaska. And what Part 139 does is ensure airports maintain a safety standard. So a standard across the board. So our 121 operators, those carriers like Alaska that you see landing at commercial service airports, will see the same thing at every airport. It is a system of standardization on how we handle operations, maintenance, as well as emergency response. In and of itself, that's the core of what 139 is. Yes, so now let's get into, I've identified three core components of understanding how 139 works. So first, there's the certification. That's the need for the operating certificate, the need to raise your hand and say, yes, I want to adhere to these safety standards that we got from that Airport Airway Development Act in 1970, and that evolved over time. There are specific regulations outlined in 139. There are, at this moment, 9 or 10 different parts that we say, yes, we can and we will do this in the interest of safety. So that would be the entire codified regulations. And then we have to demonstrate how we are going to comply with all the regulations that the FAA has laid out for us. And that's ongoing oversight of airport safety, how the FAA communicates with us, changing regulations is through various methods. There are FAA orders, there are advisory circulars, there are cert alerts, there are engineering briefs. These are all things that your airport's operations department has to keep up with to make sure that we are remaining in compliance with these safety regulations. Another note on compliance, Mike mentioned in his precursor that we are inspected once a year. So that's how we demonstrate compliance. The FAA physically comes out. There is an airport certification safety inspector who looks at all of our records, all of our documents, and then watches our processes. So I think next we're going to get into the different, oh, no, I got ahead of myself. We'll talk about the core components of compliance for Part 139. So the first of that is our airport certification manual. It demonstrates how we will adhere to the 10 areas that are codified in Part 139. And I do have them listed on a later slide, so we'll get there. It's a detailed document. It's a living document that changes as those regulations that I read out earlier, the FAA orders, the advisory circulars, the cert alerts, and the engineering briefs, as those change, we must update our certification manual to demonstrate how we are complying with those changes. And changes come for a myriad of reasons. It could be in relation to risks that inspectors are seeing as they inspect these 500 airports throughout the system. It could be as it relates to technology advancements. It could be as it relates to environmental changes. There are many reasons that the regulations are updated, so to speak. So we have our certification manual, which demonstrates how we comply with the regulations. That can change from time to time. We also have a rigorous inspection regimen. We are required to do daily inspections, which are regular safety checks of our airfield surfaces and lighting. We are required to do protection zone inspections, which ensure our approach and departure paths are clear and available for use to aircraft. We are required to do wildlife hazard inspections, and we're required to mitigate risks from wildlife on our airport and near our airport. And then finally, special inspections are conducted after incidents like severe weather. And now we get to the annual compliance inspection. So that's what Mike was talking about, where we have someone come out on a yearly basis and we demonstrate to them how our program works. So now we get to the various parts of 139. I apologize in advance if this is boring. There are a lot of parts.
I'm actually riveted, but yeah. No.
So the inspector lets us know about 30 days in advance when they will be arriving. And although we have a scheduled appointment with the inspector, we have to make our airport and our records available at any time that the FAA or our inspector says, hey, I want to know how you do this. And whether that means they come down to us or we have to forward them some documents or we have to hop on a Teams or a Zoom and explain what it is that we physically do here. That's one of the ways that we demonstrate compliance. But the Super Bowl of, of operations is this annual compliance inspection when the FAA comes out to physically see our facilities, meet the staff who is in charge of making sure that we're adhering to their regulations. Happens once a year. We start off with a pre-inspection review. That's where we self-audit ourselves. We take a look at those 10 regulations or those 10 areas of regulations in 139 and we say, have we been complying? We haven't been complying. Have we told the FAA that we haven't been complying? And if we've told them and there was a fix, have we done that fix? We dot our I's and cross our T's before the inspector comes. And we do a really big ramp up before the inspector comes, but we also do a quarterly review of the different components to make sure that we're not in a hurry to get ready when the inspector comes, which is usually at the beginning of the year. So fast forward, the inspector's here. We do an in-brief. The inspector lets us know what they want to see, when they want to see it, so that we can present the documents, the processes to the inspector. Administrative inspection is next. We're looking at our airport master record, which is FAA Form 5010, which gives all the information about the facilities, the types of approaches, everything that we have here at our airport. We review the airport certification manual, which we've already talked about, demonstrates how we comply with those regulations. We review the NOTAMs that we've put out over the year, making sure that we're actually using the NOTAM services properly, closing out our NOTAMs, and if there's any ways that we can improve in how we're using NOTAMs. They look at our—
Could you tell us what a NOTAM
Oh,
is?
I'm so sorry. A NOTAM is a notice to airmen. Basically, it is how the airport communicates a hazard or a potential outage to pilots in the area. Yeah, we're required to let them know if there's anything that is different, special, not regular that day, so that they can look out for it, so that they don't have any accidents or incidents as it relates to our non-standardization. So if we have construction happening, that would be an example of when we would put out a NOTAM.
Or when the ILS goes out.
Or when the ILS goes out.
And it's the pilot's responsibility to be aware of all NOTAMs before they take off.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a national system, so if you're flying in from Chicago, for instance, you can pull down NOTAMs for Monterey, and you'll know what to expect when you get here.
In the current airspace, actually, we'll do it in real time too. Sometimes I'll get NOTAM responses while in the air, if things have changed. When we get VIPs, you know, there'll be a TFR, but then there'll also be kind of a NOTAM.
Okay, say what all those are.
And they just changed, it's back to NOTAMs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
It was notice to air missions
Yeah.
under neutral. Now it's back to notice to airmen.
And what were the other two things that he said?
Oh, the
So that's-
TFR,
TFR is a terminal flight restriction. So you can't come into the airspace for
Yeah,
whatever reason.
right. VIPs or fires.
Yeah.
And those are temporary in nature, obviously.
Yeah, air show. That's the example Chris just gave. That's a great example as well. And this is a communication tool. This is how we communicate. Again, I'm going to say hazards, not necessarily unsafe conditions, but things that pilots may need to be aware of if they're coming into our airspace. And that is in our, where are we? The administrative inspection. This is paperwork. And finally, they take a look at our airfield inspections. So moving on to our movement area. Movement area encompasses where aircraft traverse to get to the runway, which is where they take off and land. They check the approach slopes of each runway in. They check the physical pavement itself to make sure that the condition of the pavement is okay, that the markings are conspicuous, you can see them, that our lighting signs, that we don't have any dangerous conditions if a pilot were to veer off the usable pavement. So we check for shoulders, safety areas. The inspector will also observe the ground vehicles that are moving in the same spaces as these aircraft to make sure that we're using standard radio calls so that pilots understand when there are vehicles operating in spaces where aircraft normally are operating. The inspector is checking to make sure that the public is protected against inadvertently entering our airfield. So that's our fencing. And then checking to make sure that the public is not in danger of jet blast or propeller wash. They're looking for wildlife activity on our field, as well as making sure that we have nice traffic wind direction indicators, because again, this is important information that we're reporting to pilots so that they know which way to land. Next is, on this list, we have fueling facilities. So they inspect our fuel farms, the mobile fuelers, so the FBOs who are putting gas into our commercial operators. And again, I just want to point out that all of this is done for our commercial service operators. So there are different standards for our general aviation operators, but our FBOs service our commercial service operators, and the inspector is looking to see how the fueling operations work specific to our commercial operators. So the fuel farms, the mobile fuelers, the documentation and the quarterly inspection of the fueling facility, they'll make sure that the fuelers are fire trained and that they know everything that there is to know about inter-airplane fueling. And next we'll talk about ARF and emergency response. As everyone is aware, we do have firefighting services on our airport. Again, this is to support our commercial service operators. It is a benefit when our general aviation operators operate here too, because the fire service is available 24 hours a day. The inspector will want to make sure that the fire vehicle can respond to a time drill. So there's a certain amount of time that they need to get to an aircraft that may be in distress. They review ARF personnel training records to include their basic medical emergency training. They check the firefighters' equipment. So that's the suits that they wear. They check the trucks. That's just what I'm getting at, is that there's a lot to look at. So that's why I'm droning on about everything that is necessary. And finally, we get to a nighttime inspection. So the inspector will look at everything that they look at during the day, lights, signs, markings, but things on an airfield look completely different at night. So we want to make sure that all our lights are illuminated, that all our signs are illuminated, that our paint is giving the information to pilots that we want them to see. Yes, nighttime inspections are required for airports that have commercial operations at night, which we do. So I think we've ticked off everything that's there. Finally, the inspector will discuss their findings. They'll tell us things that they saw that we've done well, areas that we need to improve on. They'll say if there's any discrepancies. Maybe there was a change in regulation which we misunderstood that now we have to correct. So these are all listed out to us, and we have a discussion about these items and how we're gonna repair them. So based on the inspector's findings, sometimes the inspector can make recommendations to our ADO. That's our Airport District Office. And Chris and Mike will correct me. Those are the folks that give us grant funds when they are available. So if the inspector finds something that needs to be corrected, that's a major project, they can prime the ADO and say, hey, Monterey has X issue and they need to correct it. The ADO will then program these dollars for us in the future so that we can take advantage of federal funds to correct whatever issues may be noted during this inspection. So since we've mentioned grants, I want to enter into the discussion grant assurances. Grant assurances, for those that don't know, are set obligations that an airport sponsor must agree to when they accept federal funds from the FAA for airport improvements. We, the airport, essentially promise to maintain and operate the airport safely and in accordance with the specified conditions in exchange for these funds. So we are held, again, to a higher safety standard because this helps to protect the national aviation system. They're giving us dollars. We're agreeing to adhere to the safety standards because we want these landing areas to be available for commerce. You know, the FAA's history is also rooted in commerce. We want to make sure that we're safe and available. So I've highlighted here on our right, what did I highlight here? Just some things that point directly back to grant assurances. So through our 139 operation, we are exhibiting proper maintenance and operational safety on our airport. That relates directly and substantially to pavement maintenance, which is grant assurance number 11. We ensure that our pavement and safety areas are well maintained. So Part 139 helps us adhere to that grant assurance. Next, we have compliance with FAA regulations and safety standards. Safety standard, one of which we talked about today, is NOTAMs, notice to airmen. We are promptly notifying pilots of hazards and making the airport available as required by the FAA administrator. We have to keep our airport open so that it is available. I've heard the director say it before, heard Mike say it before. We're a part of a system. So we can't just turn off because we're a necessary part of a bigger operation. That's grant assurance number 19, where we're maintaining proper operations and maintenance. Next, we have the efficient use of airport property and infrastructure. I talked to you guys about our inspections, how we're inspecting the approach and departure paths. It's our responsibility as the airport to make sure that there's nothing in those areas. So grant assurance 21 makes us take appropriate action to the extent possible to restrict land use on the airport and adjacent to the airport so that it is compatible with airport use. So we don't want anything penetrating where the pilots are traversing in the sky. And then finally, restriction on revenue diversion to non-airport purposes. Grant assurance 25, all revenues generated by the airport are expended for the capital and operating costs of the airport. So that the funds that we make are available to ensure that we sustain the safe and efficient operation of our airport. We cannot use those funds for anything else. So a few things that I want to leave you with. Firstly, the key components of 139. Certification, we have that operating certificate, which says we're going to adhere to the regulations, which are ever changing. And we will demonstrate compliance whenever the FAA administrator asks us to. The way that we remain compliant is through our airport certification manual, our rigorous inspection program, and the annual audit that we are required to by the FAA. We are an asset in the National Plan of Integrated Airspace. We receive federal funding and we adhere to grant assurances to make sure we're adhering to the highest safety standard because we don't want the consequences of non-compliance. Safe airport.
So all of that being said, welcome to the Hotel California. We not only go through this once a year with FAA, we also go through it annually with Caltrans. So Caltrans comes in and does the same inspection under the same criteria, the FAA criteria, after FAA. So they get 2 looks at us every year. Everything that Whitney has just said are things that we do on a daily basis and document. So when the inspection comes in, it's not just about what they see, it's about how we document, it's about how we report, it's about how we communicate within the national airspace system. So it's a pretty rigorous opportunity. The benefit of this that, Whitney kind of touched on is while it is targeted at commercial air service, the benefit is benefits also inure to the general aviation community.
Mm-hmm.
So in most airports that are just general aviation based, you don't have on-airport fire protection. You don't have the daily inspection routine and the rigorous maintenance routines that we are required to do. So, and it's agnostic about user. So if a Cessna 172 comes in and uses the airport, they benefit from the same rigorous profile and procedures that we do because we offer commercial air service. So you could make the case, and I think what we're trying to impart on the community is because we do these inspections and because we meet these significant criteria, this airport is not only safe, but it's probably one of the safer airports in the country. Any Part 139 airport can say that. And there are a limited number of us, as Whitney identified. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what we have to go through on a daily, regular basis and the regulatory reviews that we have to go through as well to ensure that we comply.
Okay, thank you. You have to step out for a minute. Any questions you want to ask before you go?
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation, Whitney. I think, I just want to clarify. So we get evaluated twice a year to the same standards, but by 2 separate set of eyeballs.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, welcome to the Hotel California.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Thank you. I need to step out. I'll be right back.
Okay, let's open it up to any member of the public here in the audience that would like to comment. And we do have a hand up in, okay, I don't see any member in the audience stepping forward.
Hello. Hello.
Wait 1 second. We do have a member in the virtual audience that would like to speak. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm sorry I just had throat surgery. So can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. First of all, I want to thank Whitney for a wonderful presentation. Good job. And I want to give a shout out to Kevin, the operations manager. Is he there?
He isn't there. He isn't here, but he's a member of my staff. I'll pass on the kudos.
Let him know it's Sarah Hunter.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yes, my name is Sarah Hunter, and I'm wondering if this airport certification manual is available publicly somewhere.
Now, the airport certification manual is not available to the general public for obvious reasons of security and safety.
All right, my next question is, you said that this inspection is for commercial operators. I'm wondering if there's an inspection in regards to general aviation operations, or is that internal?
Now, that exactly what I just said earlier, just a few minutes ago, that the fact that we are inspected for commercial service operations, those benefits inure to the general aviation community as well. So their operations on this airport are covered by the inspection. If we didn't have commercial service, those inspections would not be as rigorous, nor would they be as regular.
And
Which, right,
to
go
add on
ahead.
to what Mike said, the state inspector has an eye for both the commercial entities as well as the general aviation entities on the field. So the state inspector does a deeper look at our general aviation operation.
All right. And my last question is tangential actually to your presentation. You discussed both departure and arrival patterns for the airport. However, I've been unable to find the recommended arrival patterns for the Monterey Airport, only departure.
So Sarah, I would point you back to, we had a board meeting. I don't remember exactly when it was, but we had a presentation on why the airplanes land the way that they land. If you send an email to Kevin, I can get that queued up and sent to you. It has more to do with weather patterns than the fact that there's just a standard approach and departure. Wind
Right.
plays
So the
a factor.
approach, right. The approach and departure patterns, just so you know where I'm coming from, I am tormented by the noise, particularly from aerodynamic aviation and many flying clubs that come and abuse the touch and go noise abatement and the hour abatement at the airport. And the gentleman, I'm guessing he's at the head of the table there, actually explained part of the reason why our airport is so attractive to all these very loud, small Cessna 172 and 182s is because we're a 139 certified airport. So that does explain why people come from all over our region to the most densely populated area around the airport to abuse the guidelines. But that's why I'm wanting to see those takeoff and approach and departure settings or guidelines.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We sort of got into a back and forth. That's not the purpose. So not sure how that happened, but I'm happy some questions were answered. Okay, any other member of the public wishing to speak, please raise your hand.
That's the same.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Hearing none, I'll close public comment. Thank you very much. Let's start with board questions. Director Gagliani.
Whitney, this was awesome. Thank you. I have a couple, well, on the public being able to see this, I mean, there is a group out there that is concerned about the safety around the airport. And
As are we.
right, exactly. And there are claims, you know, I would call them, and I'll just say it right now, is that they're unfounded claims that we are operating the airport unsafely. Is there a way, taking into account security concerns, is there a way that or is there a summary brief that can be made to the public that absolutely states that not only the FAA, but the state of California believe or inspect and have come to the determination that this is a extremely safe airport. Can that information be made public, or our safety record to help kind of quell some of the I think some of the misstatements that are made out there?
The actual documentation, no, that is not available to the public for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Reports to this board, yes. As we have annual inspections, those can be made available to the board, the findings of those inspections. And I believe in the past we've done that. We may have gotten away from that a little bit, but I believe we've done that in the past.
Which then can be made public, right?
Yeah.
If it's a report to the
If it's-
board.
If it's a report to the board, it's public, and we summarize the results of those reports for the board's edification.
What's the level of effort in that? Is that something that,
It's not terribly significant.
okay. Well, through the chair, I'd like to request that.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be done pretty routinely. You would always advise us that when inspection was coming up, and then you would always tell us that we passed. And if there was something we had to work on and it was sensitive, that was always done in closed session. So when was our last safety inspection?
January this
January.
year.
Yeah.
Well, we just had it.
Yeah.
And we just lost a member of the public, but anything noteworthy that came out of that?
No. Actually a very good report. The results of that, were that the operations of the airport, the condition of the airport, the profile of the airport are all in excellent shape. They're always going to find a couple of things that
Well, they have to.
yeah, it's part of the job justification. I'm losing my filters, I'm sorry. There's always something, so there were a couple of issues related to administrative matters. Changes in how we record things and report things. Nothing significant, and nothing that affects the operations of the airport at all.
Something I'd like to see in that report would be something about violations. I mean, there's a lot of language that's thrown around that pilots, and I'm a pilot, and the last thing that I want to do is risk my license with any kind of violation. And so when I hear language being said that pilots are in violation using this airspace, I really want to, I mean, I would, it's not really the airport's purview, but I would love for it. I mean, this is, we seem to be the voice of this in that report. Can we report the number of violations? And I would expect to see zero, errors.
No, because we are not responsible for those, nor do we track those. So we would not be able to provide that information. If it were available, we could do that, but we do not provide, we're not provided with that information.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, there's, I guess, a bureaucratic hole, but
Yes.
what that does is that it enables misinformation to get out there. And if there's a way to close that, that would be very, very helpful.
Understand fully what you're saying. I don't know a way to do that because we don't have the information available, and FAA is not exactly willing to stand up in front of general public and talk about their system
Yeah.
on a local level.
Yeah.
They'll do that on a regional level, but not on a local level. But, we know because of our working relationship with FAA that the pilots that use this airport on the main are good operators, do not violate any regulations. The idea of a regulation is really, I think, the genesis of the question.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a regulation on the part of this airport district it is not a requirement on the part of this airport district to regulate flight traffic. It is not within your purview to discuss when aircraft operate. It's just not there. It's not your right to say we need a curfew. That's not within your purview. That is the FAA's, and that was the aircraft noise.
Compatibility.
Airport Noise and
Thank you.
Capacity Act.
Thank you. We use a lot of acronyms. That belongs to the FAA. And that seems to get lost a lot in the discussion in the communities. You don't have that authority. That is the FAA's authority. And they use it judiciously. They use it in order to ensure that there are safe operations in the National Air Transportation System. That's why they keep it. That's why they use it that way. And it is for safety. It is not for any other purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for us to, I mean, I'm on Air Services Committee. Maybe in the committee we can figure out something to kind of close this hole. Just because it's left unaddressed, it then becomes the reality, and that's just it. Is that it's not a reality that there are violations being committed on a daily basis at this airport in the airspace.
The problem that you have is twofold.
Yeah.
One, you have a vocal minority of people
Sure.
that for whatever reason have decided that they want to target this airport's operations.
Yeah.
We are not unsafe. We are not a noise concern.
Yeah.
As measured by the FAA. These are issues that are exacerbated only by the vocal minority that lives within the community. That's not unusual. Airports always have and always will generate noise. There's nothing that can be done beyond what has been done by the industry and will continue to be done by the industry as technology advances. The problem really comes down to zoning, and you don't have extraterritorial zoning authority. That belongs to the cities that border the airport. And when they do a poor job of zoning, that's when you end up with noise problems. That's when you end up with the safety concerns that are expressed by this community and other communities throughout. So it's really incumbent upon the zoning authorities to plan appropriately around an airport. That is not often done. And that is really unfortunate because airports generate economic impact, generate economic vitality, provide contact to the entire air traffic system, both nationally and internationally. And communities fail to recognize that sometimes. That's unfortunate because this airport, just like most other airports, I would say every other airport, does its dead level best to be a neighbor, to be a good neighbor with the community that we serve. But there are diversion points that just can't be overcome. But we continue to do what we are required to do and more to be safe and to be good neighbors. I don't know how to express that any differently because we don't have the ability to watch every aircraft. That's not our role. We don't have that ability, nor is it our role to ensure that every aircraft is flying perfectly according to regulations. That is the FAA's regulation. We haven't had any issues here that are reportable that we're aware of. So, I don't know how to address that. I understand what you're saying, and I really, really wish there was a way. The industry is a total. Airports as total want to be able to do what you're saying, but it's just not possible for us to do that. It is such a web of regulations, responsibilities, and authorities that is outside of the purview of this board, and outside of the purview of any government board that runs an airport. So I don't know, that's a long-winded. like
Yeah,
said,
no,
I'm
I
losing my
appreciate,
focus.
well, I mean, I appreciate I mean, I think in air services, maybe
Yeah.
we can
continue to
further the
talk about
discussion.
this.
Exactly. Exactly. But I appreciate the context and I appreciate the backstory. And Whitney, I really love this. This was awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, one last, of all the hats that you wear, I mean, are you the compliance officer? Are you the person responsible for our compliance?
So it's a team effort.
Yeah.
We have in operations proper 3 members of the team who respond to those noise comments, who make sure that we're in regulatory compliance.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you. And moving forward, we'll get back into that routine when these inspections happen, just a brief update
Yeah.
too. Thank you. Director Leffel.
Thank you. Have a couple questions. Do we subscribe to a service that tells you every time there's a change in a regulation so you don't just miss an email when you're on vacation?
We do. We do. Yep. It's available through the FAA's website. Mainly they come by via CERT alerts, which was something that I mentioned in the presentation. So yes, we are subscribed.
Okay. And then how does all of this interact then with the tower and TSA and everybody else? See, I mean, I know everybody's got their own field of interest and responsibility and rules, but do some of them interact so that when something is pointed out, it actually impinges on something that another federal agency has authority over?
Yeah, they do. TSA is really separate from airport operations. They deal with security, and that's a different blend of fun. But as we do inspections, as the FAA and the state do inspections, that information is shared with FAA. And remember, there are different branches of FAA here. So you've got air traffic, you've got airport, you've got programming, you've got airport certification. That information is shared throughout all of the different fields of FAA's sphere of influence. So air traffic will know, say, for instance, we have a tree that is too tall in one of the approaches. Air traffic is informed of that. And we are required then to mitigate that problem. And when it is mitigated, it's shared throughout all of the fields of FAA. So I think, did that answer what you were?
Yeah, I think for me and for the general public who, if they have questions, it is confusing because we have so many federal agencies plus the state that have some form of opinion, jurisdiction, and ruling on how we operate. So we're covered by a myriad of different people, rules, and agencies. And I think that everyone has to understand that. So, and I think what I heard was that because we have commercial aviation on this airport, that we are actually through Part 139 held to a higher standard than if we were simply a GA or a neighborhood fly in and fly out airstrip. And that because of that, this is a much safer operation because it has many more rules, many more inspections, and those trickle down to the GA community because they're flying in and out of here. So they are held to the same standards that maybe they would not have to be if they were on a more simple operation. Would that be correct?
That is correct. Hopefully the listeners to Whitney's presentation understand better exactly what you just said.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to make sure I understood everything. See my notes. I think that's all. I too, I made myself a note that we did, prior have an annual report after the 139, just saying that we got glowing remarks and everything was good. So I would think that would be good since it's such an important part of our operation.
I-
Yep. Yep.
I want to make sure that you understand that we talk about that in the operations report and in staff reports, but we don't highlight it. We'll just start highlighting.
Okay. Be great.
And then, I guess in all of this, I think we've learned that if there's a void, people will they'll fill it with a problem seeking a solution. And so I think that what we know from this is we do not have a problem. So that we need to be more proactive in telling the world that, so that the people who live close to us know that we are a very safe operation, that they can sleep at night well, that all of the parts are working correctly, and that we are in compliance with everything that we need to be in compliance with. So we'll let Air Service Committee work through this with the community and with the staff and come up with some ways to get the word out.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. You're very timely. Thank you, Mike, for inserting this here. I have a couple quick questions and comments. Let's talk a little bit about grant assurances. How many are there, Whitney?
There are 39 grant assurances.
39, and those grant assurances actually prevent us from doing things like saying no more touch and goes. Or we do have a voluntary program that talks about touch and goes and departures, but we can't make that mandatory under those same grant assurances.
Correct.
Another one we seem to get a lot of complaints about is military traffic. Isn't it a grant assurance that we can't restrict our airport, that military planes are not allowed to come and go? Any other good ones that you know of?
37 more.
37 more, yeah.
There are lots. There's, I think the military one that you just brought up, there's non-discrimination. So we can't say these types of aircraft can't come into our airport. We can't do that. We have to be available for all types of air operations here. So there are several. They're all available online, and they all offer different protections.
You know, aviation's had a tough couple weeks. I can't remember a time when we've had so many, a cluster operating all over the country. I mean, Alaska, Philadelphia, Toronto, Washington.
I think it's a great time to fire air traffic controllers.
Yeah, and that was my question because one, our ATC, our air traffic control is actually ran by FAA.
Correct.
Salinas, did they lose their contract tower?
They're private.
They're privatized. It's a privatized tower, and their funding is at risk. I don't know that it's been pulled back yet, but their funding is definitely at risk.
And the other two airports, King City and Marina, they don't have air traffic control. So it's sort of the Wild West. They have to announce coming and going and hope that the other pilots see you.
See and avoid is the term.
In reality, though, most airports in this country operate that way. There are very few airports that have the benefit of what we have in air traffic.
And that is a controlled airspace, a Class C controlled airspace with FAA oversight, which is, I mean, it does make us very safe. And if there is a problem, the FAA will see it and they will investigate.
Yeah. I mean, the
Have we
incident-
lost any of our air traffic controllers
Um,
that we're aware of?
the tower manager is not allowed to tell me.
Okay,
I've asked that question. He's not allowed to speak publicly about the current situation. That is an edict from the White House.
Yeah.
We don't believe that we've lost any. We've not lost any coverage.
well, great report, great information. Sorry we didn't have more people here to benefit from it, but thank you. So I see a member of the public is trying to raise her hand and probably would like an opportunity to talk. I'll grant that, but we're not going to be answering questions. Sorry, we can't do that, but okay.
Again, it's Helen Song. If this was made public, and again, I go back to a meeting being at a different time, it would stop a lot of the people. I've been to a lot of airport meetings, not here, you know, at their residents, about, and I only caught part of it because I've been break, but every meeting I've been to, I've been told that we're operating illegally. We have no control over the private aeroplanes whatsoever. They can do what they want, when they want, and how they want, and they're not under FAA. And I've questioned that, but the people that I'm going to the meetings, they're adamant that they're the cabins basically, they can do what they want, and that this airport isn't prepared to monitor or restrict them in any way. I heard the tail end, and it's a totally different story from here. And the presentation that this young lady did was enlightening and informative and very clear and understanding. And I really feel the meetings were at a time that these people could attend. It will answer a lot of their questions and dissuade them. There is noise, and it has been at an airport, and the airport was put in a neighborhood when it was first, I believe it was Army first, and then it was taken over. The Giles was one of the founders or something, but I know you're trying to be good neighbors, that's what I've heard today, but that's the first I've heard of it.
Okay. Here, you're welcome to my copy of this presentation. You're welcome. This is, again, great information. We need to continue this discussion. Perhaps it's our air service meeting is the best vehicle for this, but maybe we can look at having that at a later hour to facilitate more exchanges like this. So thank you for the report, and thank you for keeping the good work that we do here and the safety that we have in the forefront. Okay. Moving on, do you want to take a a quick 5-minute break? Yeah, why don't we do that? We'll come back at 9:40. Okay. As promised, it's 9:40 and we are back into open session. Because of scheduling of some consultants, we need to go into closed session at this time. So thank you very much, and we'll be coming out of closed session in about 30 minutes, I suspect. Thank you.
Woodies.
Okay, welcome back to the February 19th regular board meeting of the Monterey Peninsula District Airport District Board. We coming out of closed session with nothing to report, no reportable action taken. So we've all received the staff's department reports. Do we have any questions from those?
I did not.
I noticed we had a social media report in there. Anything you want to report on that or self-explanatory? Okay. Yeah, I hope everybody had an opportunity to look at that. We continue to do pretty good stuff with our social media presence, so keep up the good work. Anything else for department reports? I guess not. Board member, standing committees, finance, anything to report from that?
And no, the bulk of our meeting was taken up with the contract, which was approved earlier, and we had rather healthy discussion and
Good.
agreed to, both of us concurred that it should go forward to the full board for approval.
And thank you for doing that. Air service, anything to talk about, Jonathan?
No.
We're still getting our feet wet, so.
Exactly, yeah. It was very informative.
Dino and myself met for lease. We had a pretty productive discussion. I don't think there's anything to really report on that. Is there, Mark or Mike? Okay. You will be meeting with the airlines to tell them our terminal plans. When's that happening? March 1st. So we look forward to hearing about that meeting. Hopefully they're as impressed and happy as we are. Yeah.
You're building to the dollars you have.
Yeah. Well, and we did talk about that. That is a healthy encouragement because they're thinking they want to have a bigger presence here. That was Alaska that said that, or any of the other airlines? No. Yeah. But it's good hearing that from Alaska. Okay, very good. Ad hoc personnel committee, you've been updated on that, and local jurisdiction, I guess we have something coming up. So nothing to report there. LAFCO.
LAFCO has not met since December the 3rd or 4th.
Okay.
So LAFCO is canceled again this month. I have budget finance tomorrow, but no LAFCO this month.
Okay.
And there was no LAFCO in January.
We look forward to hearing about that. Regional taxi, I don't think they've had a meeting, have they?
Not till the summer.
Transportation, but the only thing I have to report there is very interesting. They're moving forward with doing these adaptive signaling utilizing IA. And then once again, Caltrans was there. When this was introduced before, Caltrans was behind the adaptive signaling 100%. They're sort of backing down from that a bit. They don't think it's going to get the desired response. And what the Caltrans guy said, he said, for every green light, there is at least one red light blocking somebody. What they suspect, or what he suspects, it would be a hybrid between adaptive signaling and roundabouts, not at every intersection, but that just seems to be the thought coming from the state right now. I only mention that because there may be hope for an Olmsted 68 roundabout in the future. So let's see, special districts, Mary Ann. We had a meeting,
Yeah, we did.
well attended by us.
Yes, we were all there.
And the next one coming up would be in April, I believe,
We
right?
did have election of officers. So the new officers for the next year are Kathleen Lee remaining as the chair. And I am the vice chair. Jeff Cecilio from the Mosquito Abatement District is the secretary. And Rick Verbonic from Pebble Beach Services is the treasurer.
Mhm.
So
And two So two of the people on the board are airport related, you and mosquitoes because they fly. And then AMBAG, anything to report there?
I did not attend the meeting. I was doing something else. Sorry.
Okay. Any questions from anybody? Any member of the public? LP? Also, if there's any public comment on any of the board reports, raise your hand electronically. We don't have any members of the public present in our boardroom. Okay, very good. I guess reports from conferences, we don't have any to talk about that, although we did have a few members attend. Anything to report on the conference you attended?
I thought the sessions I went to were really, really good. Carl and I actually went to one that was given by, is it Sun Construction? And they did a really good job. Were you in that one?
Yes.
Yeah. So they did a really good job of talking about some of the bidding process and things that are left on the table and things that if they would like to make more money on change orders that they don't point out to agencies and to the architects right away because they know it's a glaring error. But if they don't point it out, that they can make money later on. So I thought it was a really good session for me. And then I set in on the one with the FAA, and we were broken off into different groups. And I ended up in the group that was with Amy Choi, and it was a very lively discussion on electrical vehicles. And so it was nice to see some of the interaction between her and the San Carlos Airport and the people in the Bay Area who have been very impacted by Archer and things that are going on. So yeah, those were probably to me the best. I thought the attorney one was a little flat this year. I didn't think it was as good as it has been in years past. And I'm trying to think what else I set in on. The two I just mentioned, though, to me were the two that I thought were the best of and they were well worth my time to sit and listen and learn and hear what's going on other places.
Much bigger vendor presence this year, and bigger attendance. I think Marriott can just accommodate more people. I too found that construction very interesting. Of course, John, you know about this, but apparently these groups search those documents to see the potential errors and for the change orders that they know have to occur. And that they can underbid, and then they're knowing that they'll make it up when the change orders come. Okay, very good. So any discussion for future agenda items?
Could we just do a recognition next month of Whitney's new designation? Give her a little kudo from the board and make it public.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that next month.
That would be her SWAHI ACE, which I don't know what that stands for. What's that? Okay. I thought it was ACE, but okay. Yeah, nice. Sounds good. Anything else? Future agendas? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 11:50 a.m.